Hey everyone, I'm back with another switch review. This time I've got the new Gateron cap switches and I'll be comparing them with the standard Milky-Top Gateron yellow switches. They come in two different housing options, a solid yellow with a gold plated spring and a full Milky option with a standard steel spring. Both of the housings only use 3 pins and are the same shape, just with different colors. These are pretty different from your standard MX style switch and we'll get to that in just a bit. Each box comes in a package of 35 switches in this really nice acrylic case. It's nice to display the switches, but unfortunately it's not viable as a loop deck since the tolerances are so tight that you can't snap the top housings to the bottom housings. So what makes these switches unique is that the stem actually goes around the post in the bottom housing, as opposed to the normal MX style, where the stem goes into the post. According to Gateron, these cap switches are the KS25 variants, whereas the standard MX style switches are the KS8 variants. These also come pretty heavily lubed with oil from the factory, so I'd suggest wiping it off first if you plan on lubing these with a grease lube like 205G0. The stem is still made of palm, just like the Gateron yellows, but with a different shape, as you can see here. The cap switch springs are about 20mm in length, as opposed to the normal MX style springs, which are about 16mm in length. They're also 4.1mm wide versus 3.7mm on the MX springs, so spring swapping is not going to be an option. They both have a 4mm travel distance and 50 grams of actuating force, but the longer spring means that there's going to be more resistance at the top of the key press than on the shorter spring. This is actually quite useful if you want to prevent accidental key presses. The housings for both colors of the cap switches are made from something called PA66, which is a type of nylon, making this a full nylon switch. Comparing the bottom housing to that of the yellows, the cap switch has a solid post instead of a hollow one. It also has a small hole in it, which is supposed to let the air that's trapped inside of the switch escape when you press down on it. I never really noticed any air resistance on normal switches when I type, but I guess the hole is a nice touch. The top housings are very similar in shape, but you can see that the prongs on the cap switch housings are ever so slightly shorter, which is supposed to lead to them having less housing wobble than the Gateron yellows. The shape of the portion that covers the leaf spring is also more of a concave shape. Technically, these housings do fit on the opposite switches, so swapping them out is possible. In terms of stem wobble, there's a pretty small amount in the north-south direction, with even less in the east-west direction. Overall, pretty stable, with both colors having pretty much the same amount of wobble. For the yellows, there seems to be the same amount of wobble on the north-south direction, with a touch more in the east-west direction than you'd find on the cap switches, but still pretty good. For housing wobble, there does seem to be a noticeable amount on the cap switches. Surprisingly, it looks like the Gateron yellow housings have the least amount of wobble, even though their tolerances are supposed to be less tight. Anyways, let's get on to the most important part of this video, the sound test. First, let's listen to all the switches stock. Just as a reminder, the cap switches come factory lubed with some oil, and the normal yellow switches are not lubed at all. Alright, so as you can hear, the cap switches had a very nice deep and thocky sound profile, but a strong amount of scratch. The scratchiness seems to be most noticeable when you press on the edges of the keys. The yellows had a pretty minimal amount of scratch, but a much lighter and higher pitched sound profile. Definitely not as thocky. Now let's see if lubing them with some Krytox 205G0 will make some improvements. We'll do a quick comparison of all of them next to each other, first stock and then with 205G0, and then we'll do a full-on sound test with them all lubed up. So to me, it doesn't really sound like the 205G0 was able to fix the scratchy sounds on the cap switches, and they already felt pretty smooth to begin with, so not a huge difference in my opinion. As expected, the 205G0 did make a lot of improvements on the yellow switches. They're extremely smooth now and have basically no scratch. They sound a lot deeper, but still not nearly as stocky as the cap switches. So all this begs the question, which switch should you buy? Go for the new fancy Gateron cap switches, or stick with the tried and true Milky-Top Gateron yellows? Well, first let's talk about price. The cap switches cost 33 cents per switch, and the yellow switches cost only 24 cents per switch. While both of these options are very low prices for the switches of their caliber, the yellows are still a touch cheaper, so if money is an issue, you can't go wrong with them. Now let's say that price isn't an issue and you just want the better switch. If smoothness is what you're looking for, then the Gateron yellows are the clear pick, but you're gonna have to lube them to bring out their full potential. However, if you're looking for that deep, thocky sound profile right out of the box and don't mind a bit of scratch, then the cap switches are the way to go, no lubing required. Who knows, maybe the scratchiness will go away after a break-in period, like on the Novelkey creams. These are only half the price of the creams and sound a lot thockier in my opinion. Plus, creams have to be lubed, whereas these don't. So yeah, both switches are pretty good options, and it just depends on what you're looking for. Either way, they both have really good pricing and are definitely fantastic switches for their price. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this review. Please consider subscribing if you haven't yet, and leave a like on the video if you liked it. It really helps me out a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.